The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. These Best You EXPO talks are recorded in front of a live audience in a live event. We highly recommend that you focus on the message. As they say, what you focus on expands. Enjoy. Roberto Candelaria. The title of his talk is How to Get Sponsors for Your Books, Products and Events. Sponsorship isn't just for nonprofits. In fact, small business owners are using the power of sponsorship to gain more media leverage, social media, and as an additional source of credibility. In this session, you'll learn what can be sponsored, what to offer a sponsor, and how to close a deal. Roberto's been doing this for many years. He's been collecting businesses with sponsors all over the world, and I've had the pleasure of working with him a few times in some of our events. So enjoy this talk.
Today, for those of y'all that don't know me, my name is Roberto. I am going to be teaching about corporate sponsorship. Today we're going to be talking about how to get sponsors for your books, your products, or your events. And as we get started in that, quick couple questions. I know some of you, I don't know the rest of you. Show of hands, how many of you are for-profit? For-profits? Couple, how many non-profits? How many need profit? More of y'all need profit than anything else. Okay, awesome. So you're in the right place, and corporate sponsorship is a great way to be able to get that profit, to be able to get that additional income without actually going to get a credit card, without going to get a loan, and without doing all this typical traditional business funding that is quite honestly very tight right now. And if it's not very tight, if you can't find it, the interest rates are just absolutely ridiculous on it. And you're shaking your heads because you probably looked for some, and that's how you know. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Let me see if this got this. The thing is in the back. There it is. So I love to hang out on Facebook. You can take a picture of this slide if you want also. If you want more sponsorship tips, also anytime, search on Facebook, Sponsorship for Influencers. It's my Facebook group. There's about 2,500 of us that just hang out there, and I throw out sponsorship tips, make some videos. Other people in the community, as they're going about their sponsorship journey, they'll post a letter. They'll post a copy of their sponsorship proposal and say, hey, can you give us some feedback? And it's just a great place to be with other people who are also looking to get sponsored and get corporate sponsorships, so you can hang out with them. And then, of course, Roberto teaches on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I will tell you, if you go to Instagram, you will see I haven't posted in like 6 months because I really don't hang out there. But I got the handle anyway, so y'all can hang out there. So most recently, I wrote a book called Sponsorship for Influencers. Was really excited to write it. More excited, I should say, to have Mr. Les Brown endorse the book. That was like, I was like a kid in a candy store jumping up and down. And I don't have any of that book with me here today. But I got my first book. Which was Relationships Raise Money. So this was the first book. It's available on Amazon, but I have 4 of them, so who wants one? So like if you come get it, you have it. That's how it works. So there's 4 of them, 3, 0, and they're gone. So that's how that works. Unless you're me, then I really had 7, so I have 3 more. So these really are the last 3. Okay, there you go. So and I'm not going to go back up because there's no more. But that was the first book. Came out in 2011, Relationships Raise Money. I've been very honored to host sponsorship boot camp since 2011. Have done 18 of them over the past 7 years. And what we really enjoy doing is helping people get sponsored, teaching you how to get sponsored so you can go out and do this. Like I say, sponsorship is simple. It's just not easy. And I want to be able to show you some of that with some crazy sponsorship examples, because I believe that all of you, no matter where you are in your business journey, probably are doing something to change the world a little bit more, especially if you're here at the Best You EXPO, compared to some of the rest of the examples that we have here. Like I said, if you didn't get the picture of that screen, there it is. I'll come back to it later. Somebody's getting a picture. Awesome. He's got it. Perfect. Okay, so last year I keynoted the New Zealand Sponsorship Summit, which was really fun. I not only, like here in the States, I teach people like yourselves how to get sponsored. When I go overseas, I get to teach companies who they should give money to. So it's very fun. I've carved out this little niche. It's like overseas, I teach people, hi, write a check to this person. And here I teach you how to go get money from the people I just told who to write a check to. So it's a very fun balance. And that was one of the things I love about this book. But let's look at some sponsorship examples here. Anybody know who this is? Grumpy Cat. Anybody ever heard of Grumpy Cat? Yes? Okay, let's look at another one. And let's see. Now you're probably wondering why I'm showing you pictures of a cat, right? I'm showing you pictures of a cat because this here cat, that like escalated really quickly. Oh, we're going to talk about them. And you might not be clapping as soon as you see why. So Grumpy Cat, I want you to get this. Did y'all know that Grumpy Cat has sponsors? Did y'all know that Grumpy Cat gets paid 5 figures for a 15-minute photo shoot to sit there and frown? Like seriously, what value, what content does this cat bring to the world to make the world a better place? And gets paid 5 figures for 15 minutes to sit there and frown. So I share that because I believe that everybody here in this room is looking to do something more in this world other than just sit somewhere and frown. But Grumpy also gets to fly a lot of places. So let me see. I guess I should stand up here to make it easier for this thing. Maybe. There it is. Okay, so get this. Grumpy flies to South by Southwest. Y'all know what South by Southwest is, right? First class. Endless filet mignon, 5-figure paychecks for a cat. A cat, ladies and gentlemen. But since we had the little yellow over there for these guys, I know y'all recognize them. Yeah? Who do y'all think their sponsor was? Any guesses? What was it? No? Any guesses? No. Cottonelle toilet paper. They were sponsored by toilet paper.
Really?
Yes. Yes. They were sponsored by Cottonelle. Let me see if I can get this to work here. It doesn't like me. Back. We'll change the batteries. Now it's like auto moving. Okay, so, but what I want you to see here, and I'm actually going to go back a couple slides, is that if we go back a couple slides here, they were actually sponsored by Cottonelle. And Cottonelle was so convinced that they had the best toilet paper in the industry that they actually sponsored their tour, and they wanted all the media to go without any underwear on because they were so sure that their toilet paper was that good. Okay? And when people went to the concert, to get even better, they actually handed out samples. As people walked into the New Kids on the Block concert, they handed out samples of toilet paper. Is this not a ridiculous idea? But I say this because every single one of you, whatever it is you're doing in business, there's something out there, or someone I should say, or a company that you could be sponsored by. Toilet paper, porta potties are getting sponsored. Porta potties are getting sponsored. This one here is at Austin City Limits Music Festival. Don't know if any of y'all have ever been, but they run a sweepstakes called the Golden Throne. And companies actually pay for this porta potty to have the naming rights to this porta potty so that you're one of a few people to have access to this porta potty through a sweepstakes, which is another form of sponsorship. So, I never thought I'd say it, but it's just hey, people are having porta potties sponsored. And I share these crazy examples because, once again, I believe that every one of you is doing something more in life to change this world other than be a porta potty. That's why I share these examples here. So, does anybody like to eat? Sure. I'm going to show a couple pictures here. Tell me if y'all notice the commonality, okay? Wine. Is there a specific wine? Jordan. So I love working with Jordan Wine. So this is just another example of sponsorship or product placement. And this is actually my event sponsorship boot camp. Like I tell you, we've been running it since 2011. And we're privileged to work with Jordan Winery for some of them. And so this is just another example of sponsorship and product placement and how we got the wine there as they sponsor some of our VIP dinners. And then, which means the people that come to our VIP dinners get awesome wine. Unless they don't drink, then there's more for everybody else. And so they're just fun things for us to be able to do. So today what I want to be able to do, let's see. There we go. We're going to talk about 4 steps to sponsorship. But I'm curious here, how many of you have a book or are going to be writing a book? Okay. How many of you, it's more like products you want to have sponsored? And events. Events. Okay, so a lot more events. Did you know that in an event, there's about 100 different things that you can have sponsored? 100. Everything from water bottles to name tags to hotel key cards to PowerPoint presentations to stage time to VIP hospitality suites to all of your swag to your speaker's fees. If you're a speaker, your speaker time can be sponsored. Your travel can be sponsored. Your venue can be sponsored. There are, just like I said, about 100 different things with an event that can be sponsored. So what I want to share with you is these 4 steps about how you get sponsored. And the first one is actually, let me ask one more question. How many of you already know who you want to be sponsored by? Is anybody? Shout out a brand of who you want to be sponsored by. Anybody? Sony. Samsung. Toyota. Awesome. There's like a rock concert like right outside of this wall, so I can barely hear y'all. So, you have to talk. It was great. Yesterday, Kyle was like, it sounds like Alaska Airlines is pre-boarding over there. I love Kyle. He's a great guy. And so how many of you already know what you want to have sponsored? Anybody? A couple people? A couple people? Okay. So if you notice, more people knew who they want to be sponsored by than what they wanted to have sponsored, which is actually why we see most people fail in sponsorship, is they already know who they want to be sponsored by, but not what they want to have sponsored. So the first step to sponsorship truly is knowing what you want to have sponsored. Know what you want to have sponsored. And this is something that we called a property, okay? So the word is property. Just like when you buy a house, they call it the property. Whatever you want to have sponsored is called a property. So I want you to know what you want to have sponsored. So is it a book? Is it a product? Is it an event? Is it a tour? Is it, whatever it is? Is it a porta potty? Is it your cat? Is it your dog? As we saw by the beginning slides here, just about anything can be sponsored as long as it's 2 things. Number 1, it's got to be legal. And some things are legal in certain states like California and not other states, but it's got to be legal. And number 2, somebody has to see value in it. And really that's all it takes to get sponsored, is it's got to be legal and somebody's got to be able to see value in it. So does everybody know what you want to have sponsored? Or you're going to think of something, right? Okay, cool. So the next thing is you want to know who you serve and who your target market is. And this not only helps with sponsorship, this also really helps with business in general. Because some business owners, especially those of you that said need profit, what I find is that sometimes people end up in a need profit place in their business because what happens is they're trying to serve everybody. And while they're trying to serve everybody, they end up serving nobody as they're doing that because they're so focused on trying to I need a customer, I need this, I have to do this, that they can't find the person that they want to serve. So nobody really knows who they sell to. And it's the exact same thing in sponsorship we see, is that when you know who you serve, thank you, sir. Once again, round of applause for the AV team. See, they're awesome. They make things work. Is you want to know who you serve, right? And so like for me, when we come to our online courses, I know that I serve mainly women. We know that a lot of those women are single. We know that they might have children. We know that they have a faith-based background. We know that they thrive in a community. And so the more that you know about that audience, the easier it is for you to market. It's the same thing when it comes to sponsorship. When we know that market, we know what brands we can be able to reach out to. And so I want you to be very clear on who that avatar is, even if it's 2 different ones, because there's different sponsors for different things. And I'm moving fast because what I really love to do is take questions. So I want to run through all these slides so I can just answer your questions where you're at in your business. So number 3 is that you want to know who you want to be sponsored by. Notice that was number 3, not number 1, which is where most everybody started. They already knew who they wanted to be sponsored by. Because we want to make sure that this brand actually serves their target market, right? And so you see this build. And then this last part here is we want to connect, collaborate, and close. And I'm going to share with you a few sites. And then what I really want to do today is, like I said, answer questions and serve you where you're at in your business. So the connect piece is you all have a brand you want to be able to work with. You all set a brand. Let's tell you who you find. So you want to be looking for strategic partnerships division. So strategic partnerships, you want to be looking for marketing managers. You want to be looking for brand managers. You want to be looking for a general manager. You want to be looking for business development. you notice none of those job titles have the word sponsorship in it. Not one of them. And what happens is that a lot of people go through these businesses and brands trying to look for the sponsorship department, and as a result, they get a voicemail or a dreaded online form, as I like to say, where they're just like, fill out this lovely form, and we'll get back to you. You're shaking your head, you filled out that form. How many times do they get back to you with an approval? 0. You know why? It's run on AI. And that's the importance of knowing these job titles. And so what I want you to do is have that job title and have that brand. And then there's a lovely free site called LinkedIn. Has anybody ever heard of it? So I want you to go to LinkedIn, right? And I want you to go to the search bar, and I want you to type one of those job titles I gave. So I hope y'all wrote them down. And then a space, and then the company that you want to be sponsored by. So like write strategic partnerships, or brand manager, or marketing manager, then a space bar, and then whatever company. So BMW, Dell, Disney, Dove, whoever it is that you pick, put that. And then when you hit enter, it's going to bring up, obviously, a search result of everybody that has that job title at that company. Now, some people will like, well, I can't really send them a message through LinkedIn because I don't have LinkedIn Premium. Well, if you want to do it through LinkedIn, LinkedIn will always give you a premium trial if you haven't had it yet, but it's not the most effective way to do that. There's another site, once again free, called hunter.io. So it's hunter.io, hunter.io.
If you're interested in speaking, exhibiting, or getting involved in the largest personal development expos in the world, contact us today at www.thebestyouexpo.com or send us an email to info@thebestyou.co.
If you go there and you put in the web domain of the company that you want to be sponsored by, so let's just say Target.com or Macy's.com, State Farm, whatever it might be, it'll actually give you the email chain for that company. So it'll be like first name dot last name at whatever, or first letter dot last name, and it does it for all major corporations. So then you have the email chain. This is also really great if you're wanting to get on media or into magazines. You can use that same tool to get into any company. Also, let's just say you decide for whatever reason you never want to get sponsored. If you're prospecting, trying to get more sales for your business, you can put in the domains into hunter.io for the people and then figure out how you can email them directly, email those leads directly. So hunter.io is a great space to be able to do that. So, and then from there, we want to be able to connect with them. And what I usually like to do is send an introductory letter that does not actually tell them that I want money for a sponsorship. Because when people come to you and they're just like, hi, how are you doing, Daniel? Daniel, you know what? I've got something, and it's only $10,000. Could we set up a time to talk? How does that usually work for you? Right? And so it's the exact same thing when it comes to sponsorship, is that what we're doing when we approach them is just like, hey, Daniel, I noticed that this is your business, and what we'd like to do is to be able to help you reach your business goals. Here's what we're doing. How can we get you some more exposure to help you reach your goals? By the way, are you available at this day? And how can we make that happen? And then usually we put a phone number or an email address. And the reason for this is a couple things. I don't know if any of you are still in corporate America or have been in corporate America, but when I was in corporate America, it was my job to live by that lovely little calendar. And if there was an empty slot on that calendar and somebody sent me a meeting request, my job was to hit accept. And that's why we like to do that, is because it's our job to, well, it was when I was in corporate, to be able to say, yes, I can take that meeting. And so that's why we always send them a time to be able to suggest to have that meeting. And then when we're on that conversation, what we want to be able to do is ask questions that help them. And so I find that a lot of people fail at sponsorship because they go in with prepackaged sponsorship proposals that say like gold, silver, bronze, or ruby, whatever. That is the quickest way to let people know that you're a ranked amateur and you don't know what you're doing. So please don't do that. Don't Google a sponsorship template because, if you go Google a business plan and then you hire somebody to write it, you can tell the difference. So you don't want to be doing gold, silver, bronze. That is like the quickest way for them to know that you're an amateur. So please don't do it. But we want to be asking that, do what? Or an Amway. Yes, exactly. Or an Amway. But what we want to do is ask them questions on this phone call. It's like, do you have a product launch that you're excited about? Are you looking for more ways to be involved in your community? Is your team looking for more volunteer opportunities? What was, one of the ones, my favorite questions is, tell me one of your favorite sponsorship activations and what did you like so much about it? Because what I'm looking for is information to say, okay, we can help with that. We can do that. We can serve there. This is something that we can do. And then, now of course, do I already have a sponsorship proposal template? Absolutely. But I can't customize it if I haven't had a conversation with them. And sometimes, just like in any type of sale, one or two words or one or two simple things could make the difference between getting the deal and not, right? And so that's why I want you to have these conversations and figure out with them, how do we get more involved together? And then, of course, we send them a sponsorship proposal. On your sponsorship proposal, I love this to be less than 10 pages. Less than 10 pages, because you're not the next J.K. Rowling. It's not a Harry Potter novel. And, they get hundreds, if not thousands of proposals every single week. And so when we show up with like a 40-page proposal, they're just like, I don't got time for this. I don't. And I see you shaking your head, but I'm the same way. If somebody sends me an email with a PDF that's like 30 pages, I'm like, I don't have time to read this right now. I'll get to it later. And then it's like, let's be real. How many of you go and opt into stuff online and say, I'm going to read it later? How many of you read it later? No, you got an entire folder full of it. And that's what happens with these companies too. When you send them stuff that's too much for them to read, they're just like, get to it later. Later never comes. So you want to keep it less than 10 pages. And there's 6 things that I want. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. I love it. She's listened to me speak before. I'm just kidding. Like I said, sponsorship is simple. It's just not easy. So who you are, who your organization is. What is it that you're going to have sponsored? Why are you the one to be able to do this? Or why is your brand the one to be able to do this and take this forward? Because let's be real. I know that there's like 10 speakers at least that say America's leading leadership coach. Well, if you're really America's leading leadership coach or leadership speaker, there's only one, but yet there's 10 people that have the same title. So why are you the one to be able to do this? So who, what, why, where is this thing going to be? So whatever you want to have sponsored, where is it going to be? When is it going to be? And you'd be surprised how many people don't put that they don't put when the sponsorship opportunity is, which is another reason people don't get a check. And then how, of course, you are going to make whatever you promise them happen. Is it a social media campaign? Is it through media? Are you going to be an entrepreneur magazine? And I say that because another form of sponsorship is a media sponsorship. Does anybody know how much it costs to be an Entrepreneur magazine or Inc. magazine for a full-page ad? Anybody want to guess for a full-page ad, one issue?
Isn't it 40?
It's between $25,000 and $40,000. $25,000 and $40,000 for one issue. How many of you would like that for free?
Yes.
Yes, and that's what a media sponsorship is. And so that's why we say it's important to have that sponsorship proposal, because when they can see the value, oftentimes these media companies will not write you a check, but they will trade you and say, hey, you've got that $25,000 level. If you give me all of that stuff, then I'll give you a full page ad in Entrepreneur magazine. Would that be worth it?
Yep.
In most cases, yes. Or, if you don't serve entrepreneurs, then it might not be, right? But think about the magazine, think about the media in your niche that you could be able to do that with. But that's really what goes into the sponsorship proposal, the who, what, why, where, when, and how. And so I've got like 20 minutes. And I know I went through all of that really fast because what I love to do is to answer questions. And so what I want to do is do just that. Answer your questions about sponsorship, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, need profit. I've dealt with everything from like porta potties to cancer runway shows to, some crazy stuff in Vegas. So if you've got a business, I'm sure I might have some ideas, and let's take some questions. And once again, AV team to the rescue. What was your name, sir? David. Round of applause for David again. He's now our official mic runner. Yes, sir.
Hello, is it on? We just wanted to know what would be the most effective way to get in contact with them. I know you said find their emails, but you were talking to them directly on the phone and kind of asking them directly. I mean, how? Yeah. What is the most effective way to contact them?
So it really depends whether it's a large corporation or like a small business. So email is honestly the best way. It is still the best way because then we're just not showing up in their face like a salesperson. And so what I want you to do is just pretend that like you're calling yourself. or that you're emailing yourself, okay? And so if I were to just to send you an email and be like, hi, I've got this, how can we help you? How can we help your business? You might take time to reply to me. Whereas if I called you and got you on the phone right away and just said, hey, I've got this thing and I want to help you, all of a sudden you're on the spot and you're immediately on the defensive because you haven't had a chance to do any research. And that's when you're just like, my kid's crying and there's no kid in the background. My mother-in-law's this, your mother-in-law's nowhere near. You know what, somebody's calling in right now, nobody's calling in, you just didn't want to talk to them, right? And that's what we do as humans. And so we have to remember that the other end of the line is a human being. And so I love email first. My second thing I would say is LinkedIn. Because I forget what study it was, but it was a little over 80% of mid-level managers actually check their own LinkedIn email versus having an assistant do it. So number 2 is that. And then number 3 is actually social media. And I never thought I'd actually be saying that, but specifically on social media, Twitter. I know Twitter gets a bad rap these days, but there's still people doing business there despite what other people are putting all over the place there. And the way that I actually figured that out is several years ago. Has anybody ever heard of MailChimp or used MailChimp? Okay. So I'm going to tell you, I'm a human being just like y'all. And we were trying to do some stuff with MailChimp and they would not call me back. Those chimpanzees were getting on my nerves. I was like about to buy a case of bananas or something and send them over there. And I sent a tweet one day. And I sent a tweet just because I was frustrated. And I literally wrote, at MailChimp, which chimpanzee handles sponsorship? Now, I say that because, once again, I knew their marketing material, right? So these brands spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year telling us what they want us to think, right? In this case, MailChimp, chimpanzees. They messaged me back on Twitter and said, hey, send us a DM, which is a direct message. I did, and by the end of the day, we were on the phone with the vice president. Now, mind you, I had tried phone call, email. The people would not get back to me, and then I sent an angry tweet, and all of a sudden, I'm on the phone with somebody by the end of the day. And so number 1 is still email, number 2, LinkedIn, and number 3 is social media. And I'll add on the social media piece by saying that if there's a brand that you really want to work with, they most likely have a social media presence. And the more that we engage with these brands on social media, before you reach out to them, we're going to give that caveat, then you've got to realize they already have a social media team. So if you're reaching out to them, you're retweeting them, you're commenting, you're liking, you're engaging, then when you send them an inbox message about sponsorship, they've already seen your face. They've already seen your name. And so even though you haven't directly talked to them, they know who you are. Because before they retweet you, even if you put them in there, believe me, they went through your thread before they did that because they wanted to make sure you haven't done something crazy like in the past few posts because that looks bad on their brand reputation. And so social media, engage with these brands ahead of time, whether that's liking, sharing, commenting, having conversations with them, reach out to them and let them know, hey, I already like your brand, so that when you do reach out, they already know who they are. Okay, next question.
Hi. Sorry, I came in a little late. I wanted to check about sponsorship for... I do Healing Through Creativity workshops, and I'm a long-term cancer survivor. And I thought about going to one of the pharma companies to try and get sponsorship to do what I'm doing, to travel out and work with people who are fighting cancer. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on something like that and how I would, choose a sponsor.
Sure. Okay. That's easy. And I say it's easy because I'm going to go back to simple, right? So first thing we talked about is, now I'm going to guess here, what you're doing is legal, right? Okay. And number 2, somebody sees value in it, right? Yes. And so the key with pharma here is the best way into pharma is actually not LinkedIn. The best way into pharma, specifically what you're looking for, is the oncologist office. And the reason for this is that pharma companies, several years ago, Congress passed a law that dealt with the way that pharma companies can market. And so, does anybody remember when you went to the pharmacy, like a long time ago, you get all the pens, and every time the doctor wrote a prescription, it had a certain company on there? You notice all that went away. It's because Congress passed laws that made it where they can't market that way. And so now pharmas, and then all the TV commercials started. because they still had this budget, because they still needed people asking for these medications. So each physician or physician's office manager has a brand manager with that pharma company, which goes back to the job titles we talked about. So you want to go to the oncologist and ask for the brand manager for whatever pharma company makes the drug that you're talking about, that you want to use. And oftentimes that oncologist office can connect you with the brand manager for that pharma company, because obviously the oncologist is like, hey, this helps over here. And then also on the event side, figuring out what type of event, how you want to lay it out. And I would also say partner with other organizations that are doing similar work. Partner with other organizations that are doing similar work, because there are organizations, in fact, I've got two that are national nonprofits that I work with that work with women battling cancer every single day. One of them, we're in 29 states right now. And so I look for other people that are doing work that you could collaborate with, because we don't have to do this alone. Whatever business it is, find other people doing the same thing and try not to reinvent the wheel. And then the third part to that would be, is if there's anybody doing something similar, Google is your best friend. Uncle Google knows everything. I want you to go to Uncle Google and type in cancer events or cancer organizations and sponsorship. And then what you're going to pull up is some of these organizations that have sponsorship proposals. And oftentimes you'll see what pharma companies are already sponsoring them, and at what level, and at what benefit, and at what price. And I say to do that because just that little bit of research can give any of you an idea of what's already being sponsored in your field and who's already being spending money there. And I don't know if you were here when I talked about this, but if y'all go to my Facebook group, like I said, the Sponsorship for Influencers Facebook group, oftentimes people are posting stuff that they find. So it's a great way to also be able to find information there and to connect with other people that are doing similar things. And so I invite you to do that as well. Another question.
Having promoted more than 600 speakers and more than 65,000 people attend my seminars and courses and workshops and expos, having read so many books and attended so many courses, I really realized that the basics of personal, professional growth is based on the power of the question. Asking yourself empowering questions. Read my new book, The Question, Find Your True Purpose. It's based on my work, 30 years of entrepreneurship, all the experiences that I have, my manifesto, and what's really important. So for more information, go to www.thequestion.co.
So my husband and I wrote a children's book.
Ooh.
And as we were writing it, we saw it. It's an animated film, feature film, next Lion King. And we've heard horror stories about Disney stealing ideas. So we've kind of been sitting on our baby.
Right.
And, but we are assembling team wings to create our film. Would it make sense I've never heard, I'm not familiar really with sponsorships for anything, but would it make sense to seek out sponsorship for that?
So,
or would
yes,
crowdfunding make more sense?
Yes, no, and yes and no. Okay. And the reason that I say that is that does it make sense to have sponsorship? Absolutely, because you can get there faster, you can get there quicker, you can get there without debt. And if depending on what the storyline is, there might be the opportunity for some sort of product placement as well. And so does that make sense? Yes. Absolutely. Does it not make sense? Well, it depends on your timelines. Like if you're looking to get $1 million in like 30 days, it probably doesn't make sense. And then on the crowdfunding side, does crowdfunding make sense? Yes. What scares me about crowdfunding, based on what you already said, okay, so I'm just talking about what you said here, is that if you're worried about a large corporation stealing your idea, well, crowdfunding, you kind of have to reveal the idea to everybody. So everybody's going to know the idea before you already have the money. Yeah. So could you get the money there? Yes. Is it the most effective way from an IP standpoint? Probably not. I'm not an attorney, by the way. I'm not an attorney. I do not play one on TV, and that's way too much school. So anything I'm saying is not legal or financial advice. But I invite you to talk with an attorney about the IP piece, because the sooner you can lock down the intellectual property.
Well, the book is out.
But in terms of the movie, yeah. But the sooner you can lock down intellectual property and copyrights and trademarks, then I think you'll have a better direction. I'd love to be able to talk to you more afterwards, because there truly is a sponsorship opportunity. It's looking at the end game, because you could actually do so we're going to take it back to the author side, right? You could do a book tour that's a sponsored book tour and have the sponsored book tour and the book sales and the promotion and the celebrity endorsements from the book fund the movie and never even say that you're funding the movie and use the profits from this other sponsorship, book tour and speaking tour to fund the movie. So the sponsorship doesn't necessarily even have to come for the movie. And so we can talk more about that later.
Yes.
My brain's kind of crazy. Other questions? Just pass the microphone up one. They got like Xena Warrior Princess over there now.
I was just wondering, besides the book or product, what you should have. Should you have a website? Do they want you to have less?
Oh, great question. So what you should have? I'll say this. When I got my first sponsors, I had no website. There's these myths, and not even myths, what is called them flat out lies out there that say that if you don't have all of this stuff, then you'll never get sponsored. I got my first sponsorship as a sophomore in high school. That was like 20 years ago. I did not have a website. There was no Infusionsoft or Entreport or anything like that. I don't even know if MailChimp was around right then. So you really don't need any of that stuff. You don't need a big email list because let's be real. When we all start, our mailing list starts at 0. My first email subscriber was my mom, and she didn't even know it. I added her. And so, now that fallen like some sort of can spam act, but we didn't have that back then. And so I say that I'll add to that by saying, don't let somebody else's default that hasn't got sponsorship and their excuses about why they weren't able to succeed become a default for you because they weren't willing to go change. And that's for anything. But what you need is you need a clear idea, a plan of how you're going to get them the exposure, what type of benefits you can offer them, and then somebody that buys into that. I mean, like I say, it's simple. It's just not easy. And every business is different. Yes, sir.
First, if you can mention those job titles again real quick. And the other thing is that for nonprofit, you mentioned, for example, going to those sponsors and showing them how we can work together, how they can benefit.
Right.
So for a nonprofit that's offering services, what would be some ideas on how to show them that they can benefit as well?
Well, so for a nonprofit, so job title, strategic partnership, global strategic partnerships, marketing manager, brand manager. If it's a local place, it could be a unit marketing director. It could be an area marketing director. There's a lot of different job titles. But in terms of how you show the value, if you're offering services, think about who you serve with those services. So like if you're a nonprofit that serves, let's say, veterans, okay, who did amazing work fighting for our country, and now you serve veterans however. Well, then you think about, okay, if we serve veterans and our nonprofit does all of this for veterans, then who wants access to those veterans? Who wants access to their families? Who wants access to those resources? Who could help them, whether it's with PTSD or medical or starting a business, whatever it is, and then find those companies that want access to those people. Because then those are the people that, because you're sponsored as an organization, you could then offer those services to whoever for free. And so, does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So it's never really about what we're doing. It's about who we serve and what they're doing and who wants access to those people. Because much like we oftentimes have to go through a gatekeeper. I mean, so if you think about it, every time you go to the doctor, there's a gatekeeper. You walk in. Hi, do you have an appointment? Yes, you write your name down. Do you have your insurance card? If you don't have your insurance card, what do they say? They say pay now, right? And it's a gatekeeper. But even after that, you see a nurse, right? And then that nurse is like, talks to you about everything. It's another gatekeeper before you get to the doctor, right? Same thing with us, is that as a nonprofit who provides services, as a business owner who has a mailing list or a community or a tribe, you're the gatekeeper to those people, to that community, to that tribe. And so it's our job to then also vet these people to say, okay, well, who do I want to let have access to my people? Who do I want access to my community, to my tribe? And right after me here in just a couple minutes, Warren, who's right here, is going to be talking about community building and how business owners use social media to build community with customers that you already have and be able to leverage that for even more profit within your business as well. And so also, I'd love to be able to talk to you some more after this. Any other questions? I know there was some over here. Yes, sir.
Hello. I'd like to hear some of your ideas on how I can get funding from my company. I'm open to different types of sponsorships as far as local meetup groups, magazine ads, or whatever. So my company's within its first year. I have a consulting and financial services company. My core service would be building business credit and helping new businesses get funding for their company as well. So
this is easy. This is the easiest one of them all. Okay, so think about this. How many of you are business owners? I'm going to mess with you here, okay? Just so everybody here has a business, okay? How many of you drive a car or know somebody that drives a car? Okay, how many of y'all actually have car insurance for that car? Okay, so how many of you live someplace and you have renters or homeowners insurance? Okay, so these are all business owners who drive cars and also have places to live. Do business owners need insurance companies? So you can get sponsored by an insurance company. So what I want you to do is everybody, like I said, this stuff is really simple. Don't think about everything that's not possible, but just go back to who are the people that I serve and what do they use? What do they use? What products, what services do they use on a day-to-day basis? Who wants access to these people? I mean, come on, guys, New Kids on the Block and toilet paper. Like we're talking about auditoriums of people around the world getting toilet paper. But guess what? Does everybody to go watch New Kids on the Block use toilet paper? And so I use it as a crazy example, but just to show that we make this stuff as entrepreneurs way more complicated than it really is. And so I'd be looking at insurance companies. I'd be looking at benefit companies. I'd be talking to Chamber of Commerce's. I'd be talking to attorneys. And so think about every single service provider that a business owner would use, and I'd be working with them. Next question. Was there one? Up here. And this might be the last one. Might be one more.
Hi, it's kind of a two-tier.
Well, you get one tier, and then we'll see if we can do the second tier.
Sounds good. Are you looking for more people to sponsor? Or are you looking for more sponsorships?
For me personally?
Not you and your personal, but is in your business, because I know you connect full-time to this.
So the question is am I looking for more people to get sponsors for, or am I looking for more sponsorships? What I'm really looking for is I'm on this mission to teach, train, and educate people how to get sponsored. Because there's so many business owners that have so many great ideas that don't get them out in the world because they lack one thing, and that's called money. They lack money. And with money, they can have marketing. With money, they could have distribution. With money, they could have intellectual property. So what I'm looking for is as many entrepreneurs and for-profits and nonprofits that I can have access to so they can teach, train, because I can teach them so they can be trained and they can be inspired on how to get sponsored. Because there's so much great intellectual property right here that doesn't get into the world simply because they don't know how to have it funded. So the first thing I'm looking for is just more people to be able to teach, more people to be able to train. Can people hire me to go do this all for them? No. I did that, and we did the first $18 million, and it was fun, and then I got sick. And I ended up in a hospital, and I had 11 surgeries in 18 months. And while I was having 11 surgeries in 18 months, all the people that I was getting sponsorship for, how much sponsorship do you think they were getting while I was under anesthesia? 0. And so that's why I teach now. That's why I train, is so that other people can be able to do this. Because whether it's through Sponsorship Bootcamp, our live event, or through our books or our online courses, what I know is that when we teach people how to do this, they can live their entrepreneurial dream. They can go help more people. They can be that nonprofit. They can be that for-profit. And we never know the legacy of what goes on from generation to generation because they were able to make something happen for them because they got sponsored. So does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. One more question. Anyone? Okay. Oh, right here. The elementary entrepreneur. I love that hat. There you go.
How do I promote my book and get sponsors? Get sponsors?
You just did one, but what's the title of your book?
The Elementary Entrepreneur.
The Elementary Entrepreneur. And who do you want to help?
Kids.
How you want to help kids start businesses?
Kids start businesses, grow their confidence, grow their selling skills.
Well, first of all, I think you've already done that. So round of applause to you. And then secondly, make sure that I get your parents' business cards or your card, because I want you to come to my next event as my guest, okay? And so bring it to me, and I'm going to email you, and I just want you to come to my event and learn. Like, we're just going to bring you out. Thank you, sir. Now I'm going to answer your question. Julian? Thank you, sir. Pleasure to meet you. I'm going to email you. Okay. Give a round of applause for him. I wish I had parents that would have encouraged entrepreneurship at a young age. But we don't know what we don't know, and our parents don't know what they didn't know. And so what I'll tell you is there's a lot of kids that want entrepreneurship. And, well, every kid has a parent of some level, right? Some have one, some have two. And there's a lot of companies that want money from those parents. And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to reach out to credit unions. Not big banks, okay? Credit unions. Because credit unions are on the leading front in terms of youth savings accounts right now. And so if you could go to your local credit union and be like, hey, I want to teach kids how to be able to become entrepreneurs. Number one, the credit unions might sponsor the books. Number two is that you could also say that you want to have like an entrepreneur workshop for kids there and help kids open savings accounts, and then tell the credit union that you want them to buy your book for all the kids that open a new account and put a little bit of money in there. Now, some people are saying, okay, but yeah, how does that really help the credit union? It helps the credit union because if the credit union sponsors Julian, his parents might go open an account there. And if they open an account there, they might get a credit card there. And if they get a credit card there, they might get a car note there. And if they get a car note there, and you just see this ripple effect. And so that's one of the other great things about credit unions or banks is that for them, they've got the money up front because they know at some point somebody's going to come get a loan, somebody's going to get a credit card, and they're going to make it there. The other thing that I do is find out who else wants access to your parents, okay? And so is it a car dealer? Car dealers like parents. Insurance agents like parents. Pediatricians would be amazing because pediatricians are always looking for more places. I'd be looking for health insurance networks. And so really think about, somebody like Legoland too. Because if they sponsor you and you do an entrepreneur workshop there, then guess what? All of the parents are going to have to fly all of their kids to Legoland, and Legoland will be very happy because they will sell lots of Lego. And so think about things that you like, that other kids might like, and how those companies could make money from your dad. Okay? That's what it really comes down to. Does that help y'all? Awesome. Okay, so before they kick me off of here, which comes very soon, here's what I want to do. I'm not going to sell y'all anything. I'm not. All I want to do is, my email address is up there. It's roberto@sponsorshipbootcamp.com. If you email me and say, hey, I met you at the Best You EXPO, then there's two things I'm going to do. Number one is I'm going to send you a free ebook. Okay? And it's literally called 100 Things You Can Get Sponsored. You can go buy it on my website, or you can email me. And notice, it's not an opt-in page. I'm not going to add you to a mailing list. I'm going to send you this thing and say, hey, get this book. And then number two, I'm going to send you a link for a free 15-minute phone call. We'll talk to you. We'll talk about your business. On that call, like in the last minute or two, will I say, hey, here's a program or service or live event and tell you about something specific to your business? Absolutely. But if it works for you, awesome. If it doesn't work for you, awesome. Because what's important is that you learn how to get sponsored and how it works for you. So that's what I have to say. I hope that helps. And I look forward to chatting with y'all soon. Stick around for Warren. And I'll see y'all in my email inbox, okay? Thank you.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.